Something beyond comprehension is happening to a little girl on this street, in this house. A man has been sent for as a last resort to try and save her.
The Exorcist. It was released in 1973 and became the movie to see. People all over the country waited on lines for up to 5 hours to see this provocative and controversial tale of good versus evil.
My experience with this movie has been incredible, especially with people fainting. Halfway through the movie, the movie starts getting quite violent, and people get quite unusual reactions, and we have a lot of people throwing up and a lot of people shuddering. But the thing that really surprises me is people faint. I mean, I've never in my life known a movie where people would faint. I mean, it's hard to make people faint.
The Exorcist, released in 1973, is directed by William Friedkin.
The Exorcist is based on a true story. It took place in Silver Spring, Maryland in 1949 and was widely reported by the American press.
As they said on Fact or Fiction, you decide.
This was going to be, or needed to be, something more than just another horror film. This had to be a realistic film about inexplicable events.
It was strange and interesting to see how the film, kind of from being a horror film, became kind of a phenomenon, testing people's stamina. And you heard people saying that I was there, and when I was there were 3 people who fainted and were carried out, and there was one at my side who threw up.
Well, as soon as they faint, I get out the smelling salts, and we have 2 kinds. We have a little bottle with smelling salts, and I uncap it, and I hold it under their nose, and they come to, or else we have the little pellets, and I break them, and then they come to. And most of them, once they fainted, they don't go back into the picture.
This film begins with Max von Sydow, who plays a priest, and he is in northern Iraq. And I don't know what they're digging for. They're digging for something. It feels like a mommy movie. Max von Sydow finds these small pieces that look like a demon, and then Max von Sydow is spazzing out. A man who is blind in one eye. And I'm just like, this thing is just going on forever. I understand what's happening. You know, he's found these pieces and he knows what this is and he's affected by it and it scares him. But it's just going on and I'm bored.
To be or not to be? That is the question.
He knows that he has to fight this battle. He sees the dogs fighting, and then he sees the demon statue, and it's very cool imagery, and the demon does look kind of scary.
Captain Howdy.
Who's Captain Howdy?
You know, I make the questions and he does the answers. Captain Howdy, do you think my mom's pretty? Captain Howdy? Captain Howdy, that isn't very nice.
Linda Blair became famous overnight as the possessed child, Regan. Ellen Burstyn, the superb Oscar and Tony-winning actress, was her mom.
They have great chemistry in this film. They have a great relationship. I believe that they are mother and daughter. Like, there's an interesting scene in this film when they talk to Captain Howdy and they play with the Ouija board. So that's the thing. That's how the demon got into Regan, is because they was playing with the Ouija board.
You don't like him like Daddy?
I love you, Daddy. I'll always love you, Daddy, honey.
Operator, you have got to be kidding. I have been on this line for 20 minutes. Jesus Christ, can you believe this? He doesn't even call his daughter on her birthday, for Christ's sake.
Maybe the circuit is busy.
Oh, circuit's my ass. He doesn't give a shit. No, don't tell me to be calm, goddammit!
And then we have another story. But before we get to that story, we do have one of the best scenes in this entire film. But it leads into our other character in this film, Jason Miller, who plays a priest who is a psychiatrist, and he's losing his faith, and that's what happens in these exorcism films. You got a person who loses their faith and they have to face the demon. But this is very compelling because Jason Miller's character, he is concerned about his mother. He wants to take care of his mom. His mom is sick, and she's very stubborn. She doesn't want to leave her home, but she can't walk up and down the stairs, and eventually she gets injured, and then she gets put in a nursing home, and she doesn't want to be there, and then Jason Miller feels guilty, and he can't put her somewhere nicer because he doesn't have any money, and he used to be a boxer.
Why you did this to me, Demi? Why?
But then we kick off into one of the best scenes in film, number 2, with the possession of Regan, when we see the image of the demon, and it looks like a monkey, but it's there and it's scary. It's just a flash, and then, you know, Regan starts spazzing out and doing all these weird things, and it's creepy.
You're telling me that I should take my daughter to a witch doctor?
Then I feel like at this point the movie, it gets a little muddled when we have the detective come in here and he's trying to figure out who killed this director, and his neck was twisted and he fell down the stairs, and they figured out that Regan did it and all this stuff. And you know, the detective, the character is interesting. I like the detective. I think the actor who played this character is cool, but it's just kind of interfering with all of the stuff that I'd rather be viewing.
Keep away!
I screamed in horrendous pain. Billy motioned to Owen to tilt the camera down on me. And I saw it, and I was so furious and said, "Turn the effing camera off," because I couldn't stand that he was willing to just get a quick shot of it before they called the ambulance, you know.
And, how do you go about getting an exorcism?
I beg your pardon? Well, since we learned about mental illness, paranoia, schizophrenia, all those things they taught me at Harvard. Miss McNeil, since the day I joined the Jesuits, I've never met one priest who has performed an exorcism, not one.
Could you see her?
Yes, I could. I could see her as a psychiatrist, but I can't
Oh,
see
not
her.
a psychiatrist. She needs a priest. She's already seen every fucking psychiatrist in the world, and they sent me to you. Now you're gonna send me back to them? Jesus Christ, won't somebody
No, you
help
don't
me?
see, you don't understand. Your daughter...
God, could you help her? Just help her!
At first, the priest, he doesn't want to believe in, you know, the exorcism possession, but then he goes to meet Regan and he does some tests, and eventually he starts to believe.
I was there, and when I was there, there were 3 people who fainted and were carried out, and there was one at my side who threw up.
Well, as soon as they faint, I get out the smelling salts, and we have 2 kinds. We have a little bottle with smelling salts, and I uncap it, and I hold it under their nose, and they come to, or else we have the little pellets, and I break them, and then they come to. And most of them, once they fainted, they don't go back into the picture.
Look, your daughter doesn't say she's a demon. She says she's the devil himself.
There's one jump scare in this film, and it's warranted. It's a good jump scare because I'm feeling the intensity. I'm in there with Jason Miller as a character and him listening to these recordings, and he's like very into it. And then the phone rings, you know, and that caused me to like jump and have a heart attack a little bit too. But eventually we reach the conclusion of the film where Max von Sydow comes in the epic shot. And it is an epic battle between good and evil because the special effects are great, the performances are great, and the fact that they did actually freeze that room so you can see the breath. It's very authentic, and I understand that it's a grueling experience to have to go through that. Matter of fact, I don't understand. I can't even comprehend that.
Demi, why you do this to me? Please, Demi. I'm afraid.
We discover that Jason Miller, his faith isn't strong enough. The demon is getting to him by taunting him, by pretending to be his mother.
You're not my mother!
And the demon kills, or Max von Sydow, he has a heart attack or something because they established that he's taking these pills. And now, the final showdown between Linda Blair being possessed and Jason Miller. And Jason Miller is pissed, and so he uses his old boxing ways to beat up a little girl.
You son of a bitch!
He tries to cast the demon out, and the demon leaves Reagan's body, and then it possesses Jason Miller. And then in one of the best scenes in the film, number 3, Jason Miller becomes possessed, but he can't hurt the little girl, and so in a very intense, satisfying moment, he jumps out of the window and he rolls down the stairs. It's very sad, and he dies, and then he has his last confession.
Are you sorry for having offended God and for all the sins of your past life?
This film is a masterpiece on a technical level, on an acting level, and on a story level. It's very interesting and it's very effective. And I feel like even though the first half is very slow and dragging on, it establishes who these characters are so that when it does build that tension and then the shit hits the fan, you care about what's happening because you care about these characters, because you are invested in their stories emotionally.
Why you did this to me, Demi? Why?
Huh? By the end of it all, it's an effective film. It delivers on all cylinders, but the ending, I think, is very depressing. That's all I have to say.
My experience with this movie has been incredible, especially with people fainting.